Hello everyone, and welcome to Swordhaven Sunday. Today I'd like to take a moment to talk about weapons, armor, and costume. Swordhaven is a game that aims for a healthy amount of hand-to-hand combat, ranged combat, and other exciting mayhem. So let's talk about what we're looking for here and the best way to survive the Swordhaven LARP experience. First off, talking about costume, the number one thing to keep in mind is that Swordhaven is a very open format. There's a huge world, there's thousands of different ways people dress. The main thing is that your costume should be something that you're going to enjoy wearing, that you're going to feel good about, and it's going to be practical and increase your enjoyment of the game. So, it's okay to mix in a few science fiction, fantasy elements. Really what we want is not to see any costumes that are immediately recognizable as a certain time and place. We're not looking for any Romans, no offense to the wonderful Romans of the world, cavaliers, ninjas, any obvious tropes. Try to make your costume something a little exotic, something where people aren't quite sure what it is. But make sure it's practical and it's fun. So, now on to armor and weapons. Armor in Swordhaven is a single skill and basically symbolic. You take the skill, you get a hit point, you have to wear some type of armor. We recommend staying away from large amounts of plate armor and going with something that would perhaps fit in an 80s movie. Something flashy and fun, which is what I've chosen today. Next, Swordhaven is a game a lot about swords. Swords use is a free ability in Swordhaven, and we encourage everyone to have one, even if you don't plan on using it that much. Swords are available from a wide range of sources, and you can, of course, make your own. This is a B3. I'll post a link below. B3 makes weapons that are competitive, safe, and attractive. Very, very hard to beat. There are also many commercial latex weapons. Downside of these is that they generally lack a thrusting tip, but they look amazing. This is a homemade in the Colin McFarlane style, my personal favorite. Combines, as far as I'm concerned, the best features of all. So once you've got your sword nailed down, the next thing to think about is, do you need a helmet? Wearing a helmet is also an awesome skill, and Swordhaven is all about the helmets. Again, we're going for flashy, creative, and different, rather than historical here. We're strongly in favor of helmets with fins. I haven't gotten around to making any yet, but I'm planning to make a bunch. Fins. This is one type we'll also be using quite commonly. This is a blast from the past, the Mackenzian style helm from the original Maasai game, Stalker's Way. They're made simply from a single piece of metal, provide good protection, can be embellished in various interesting ways. Other helms, well, go with what inspires you. Helmet's another skill, adds a hit point, great for a combat-based character. Shields. Swordhaven doesn't allow large shields. As a lifetime LARP shield fighter, this was a difficult decision for me, but I feel that smaller bucklers will make for a more exciting and dynamic combat. Buckler use also requires a skill, so it's a fairly pricey investment. But here's the great thing about bucklers, they block bullets. So you'll definitely be interested in one. And if you happen to invest the skill in it, it'll give you a useful role as someone who can protect others and keep everyone from being shot to bits. One of the biggest areas of innovation in Swordhaven is that we fully embraced Nerf missile weapons. It's part of the reason that Swordhaven is themed as a science fantasy, techno-barbarian game. It's so that we would have access to these amazing toys that shoot really well and are relatively cheap and easy for people to obtain and maintain compared to most fantasy LARP missile weapons, which tend to be very expensive for ammunition and difficult to acquire in some cases. So, what are the different types of projectile weapons you can get? When you take the projectile weapon skill, each battle you can choose what you're going to load up and carry in. The simplest weapon is the salamander. The salamander is a single shot weapon, does 3 damage. It's basically an alpha strike or a get out of jail free card. You blast somebody with it, 3 hit points is a pretty solid chunk of damage in Swordhaven. They're going to think twice, maybe run away, maybe fall down. They have no minimum range, and like everything, you can reload them with radium. Then, there's the Jezzail. Jezzails are a long-range weapon. They have a minimum range, but you're not really going to want to use this from point blank anyway. They can be reloaded as often as you want without radium, which makes them the ideal weapon for someone who just wants to get up in a tower and snipe away. They also do 2 damage. I personally prefer the air rifle type. It's a Maasai invention because they can be made boffer, which means that in a pinch, you've got something to use in close combat, say if you lost your sword. They're also, again, available from B3, amazing spring-loaded muskets, which work very well as Swordhaven Jezzails. They come in not action ball caliber, in Nerf rival caliber these days. Great pieces and a great addition to your LARPing arsenal for many different games. Probably the big news, though, is the gyro jet. In game terms, these fire a radium-propelled projectile that accelerates up to speed. That's why they have a minimum range. You get a large magazine, you can fire them off like crazy. A good weapon for flanking or for putting a lot of holes in a group of enemies approaching towards you. The minimum range is mostly there so that people who are locked in melee combat can enjoy a good melee combat without somebody standing 4 feet away behind one opponent shooting them over and over again, which is the dynamic we're trying to avoid. So you need to put some distance between you and your opponent to use these, but with the ability, the power and accuracy of modern LARP weapons, a 20-round magazine before you need to spend radium and reload, these are certain to have a large impact on the game. And again, a single skill gets you access to all 3 types. You choose which one you want for a given battle or mission. They're all likely to be useful in somewhat different ways. So, thanks again. I should mention briefly that you can use other types of weapons. This is a B3 axe, which I also heartily recommend. A little more specialized. We don't expect to see them that often in the game, but I'm sure those who use them will enjoy them. The two-handed sword also has a special place in my heart and in Swordhaven. That's it for Swordhaven Sunday. Any questions? Please don't hesitate to drop us a note.